Listen, son. There's a truth most men refuse because it demands too much from them. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is the alarm that tells you where you are weak. Pain is not the wall that stops you. It's the door you must push through if you ever want to be anything more than comfortable and forgettable. Look at your life. The first thing your hand touches when you wake is a screen. The last thing you touch before sleep is a scroll. You call it catching up, relaxing, staying connected. That is what soft men call rest. Real men call it avoidance. You flinch the moment pressure rises. You shrink when plans get hard. You blame life for being unfair when the truth is simpler and uglier. You are not ready. You pray for ease but never ask for strength. You want the win, not the work. You want to be celebrated, not disciplined. That's cowardice disguised in polite language. Hear this. Ease never made anyone great. Comfort preserves the mediocre. Every man who built a name, a nation, a movement, or a legacy paid with pain first. Pain is the most honest teacher you will ever meet. It doesn't flatter, it doesn't negotiate. It tells you exactly where your edges are, and it will keep telling you until you sharpen them. Let me make it concrete and physical so you feel it. When you lift weight, the burn, the soreness the next morning, that's not destruction. That is micro-tearing. Your muscle fibers break under stress so they can rebuild stronger. The body grows because it was wounded and learned to heal with more resilience. Training is intentional damage followed by disciplined repair. The math is brutal and simple. Strain, repair, stronger. No shortcuts. The same law applies to the mind. When you push past discomfort, typing one more page, making one more cold call, sitting alone with your thoughts while the world screams for distraction, you create tiny breaks in the old wiring of your habits. Those breaks force your brain to rewire. That's neuroplasticity. Pain is the signal your brain needs to reorganize priorities. It's the only language the subconscious understands when you want new behavior to become habit. You do not grow by avoiding pain. You grow by using it. Pain is feedback. Pain is data. It tells you where your system is failing so you can fix it. You treat pain like a surgeon. Remove what's rotten, stitch what's valuable, and move on. But you don't numb it. Numbing is how losers maintain illusions. Look around. Most men numb their pain with noise. They scroll to forget the sting of rejection. They eat to silence the ache of failure. They seek shallow companionship to drown the echo of emptiness. They trade lessons for likes. Each avoidance compounds the weakness. Each distraction rewires your brain away from discipline and toward addiction. It is slow suicide disguised as convenience. Now listen to a man who did not run from the lesson. Nelson Mandela sat in a cell for 27 years. 27 years of shackles, separation, hunger, humiliation. That is pain on a scale most of you cannot imagine. His body was imprisoned, his mind was not. He learned to use pain like a compass to measure purpose against cost. In those years, he didn't become weaker, he became deeper and calmer. He learned patience, he learned restraint, he learned how to be immovable in his convictions. The world did not make him a leader by giving him comfort. It made him a leader because he used suffering to discipline himself, to study strategy, to harden will. The prison didn't stop him. It taught him endurance.
You have lesser tests.
Heartbreak, layoffs, failing projects, people who betrayed you. But the mechanism is the same. Each cut is a lesson. Each loss is an education if you decide to learn. Pain either shoves you into a smaller life, or it becomes the hammer that forges you into something larger. The choice is not mystical, it is practical. Stop lying to yourself. When you feel the sting of criticism, do not collapse. Ask, what does this expose? When relationships end, don't drown in pity. Ask, which parts of me enabled that to happen? When a plan fails, don't whine about fate. Ask, which habits let this failure take root? That interrogation is the beginning of discipline. Pain hands you the evidence. Discipline turns that evidence into action. Here's the thing most men want to avoid. Translating pain into practical work requires brutal honesty and daily repetition. You will not be healed by one realization. You will be healed by repeated application. When you make the decision to let pain be your tutor, you must also make the decision to schedule the training, the reading, the cold starts, the repetition, the uncomfortable conversations, and show up when you are tired, bored, and unseen. That is how the brain learns that the new pattern is normal. Do not confuse this with masochism. We are not celebrating suffering for suffering's sake. Pain without purpose is pointless and destructive. The difference between a man who is forged and a man who is broken is intention. Pain without meaning destroys. Pain with a mission constructs. You must attach every suffering to a why. Viktor Frankl wrote it plainly. Those who had a why could survive almost any how. You need a why that is big enough to accept the how. And then there is timing. Pain will come whether you invite it or not. The question is, will you use it or will you waste it screaming? Most waste it. They lurch from one short-term fix to the next, never allowing suffering to align them toward a goal. Discipline is reclaiming your time away from the trivial and investing it in the essential, even when everything inside you is pleading for comfort. You think pain disproves your worth. It does not. It reveals your threshold. Use it to expand that threshold. Every time you endure, when your body or mind begs you to stop, you increment the scale of what you can handle. That accumulation compounds until the man you used to be would not recognize his successor. That successor is not softer, he is sharper, quieter, more dangerous. Here's a pattern I want you to memorize and practice. Notice the pain, label it, locate the lesson, design one action, repeat. Notice the pain, call it out, label it. Is it physical, emotional, social, professional? Locate the lesson. What exactly did this hurt reveal about your habits, your systems, your choices? Design one action, a single, non-negotiable step that addresses the root cause. Repeat that action until it no longer feels like a decision. That sequence is how pain becomes protocol, and protocol becomes habit, and habit becomes identity. Understand also that pain has a timetable and a terrain. There are pains you must endure briefly to pass through. The soreness after a workout, the awkwardness of a new skill. There are pains you must carry long-term. Loss of relationships for the sake of focus, periods of financial austerity for business building. Your job is not to avoid either. Your job is to choose which pain you will pay for progress and which pain you will avoid because it serves no purpose.
A man who wants discipline must be willing to live deliberately and be misunderstood. The people who love you are often the ones who will resent the changes because change demands their adaptation. They will call you distant. They will call you harsh. Let them. Labels are cheap. Results are not. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be forged. So start small and be relentless. If your body cries in the morning, stand anyway. If your heart breaks, build despite it. If your hands shake when you call that client, call them anyway. Pain loses its power when it becomes familiar. Familiarity transforms terror into routine, and routine breeds mastery. That is the cruel leverage of discipline. Remember Mandela's cell. He turned confinement into curriculum. He used every tiny humiliation as a lesson in composure. He practiced patience until patience became his posture. That's the model. Locate the school inside the suffering and graduate with honors. The world will call it stoicism. You'll call it survival. Later, they'll call it leadership. You have one last choice to make. Let your scars be reminders that you once suffered, or make them weapons that prove you survived and learned. Keep them as trophies of defeat, and your life will be a museum of what you lost. Turn them into tools, and you will build. Pain doesn't stop men. It introduces them to who they really are. Make it teach you. Make it sharpen you. Make it necessary. Listen, son. The body flinches before the mind does. That's how weakness begins, in reflex. You feel discomfort, and the body screams retreat. That's not cowardice, it's conditioning. The human brain was built to keep you safe, not make you great. It rewards comfort, routine, and familiarity. Pain is treated like an error, a glitch in the system that must be fixed immediately. But greatness is the art of resisting that system. Discipline is the rebellion against your own biology. The moment you choose pain consciously, you step outside the factory settings of human nature. You stop living like prey, and you start thinking like a predator. Every man is wired for ease. Dopamine makes sure of that. Every scroll, every bite, every distraction is a transaction. Your comfort in exchange for your potential. The brain loves the short route. It releases dopamine when things come easy. It calls that happiness. But what it's really doing is training you to stay small. You've been tricked by your own reward system. You think peace means the absence of pain. It doesn't. Peace is the mastery of it. When pain hits, dopamine crashes. The brain panics. It wants the high back, that rush of comfort, pleasure, escape. That's when most men reach for something: a phone, a drink, a distraction, a woman, anything to make the pain stop. But the man who doesn't, the one who sits through the burn, who breathes through the ache, that man's brain starts to evolve. You see, the mind is plastic, not literally, but biologically. Neuroplasticity means your brain changes shape and function based on repetition. Every time you choose to stay instead of run, you are rewiring your own nervous system. You're teaching your brain a new command. We endure here. And that's how discipline is born. Not in motivation, not in hype, but in microscopic acts of resistance repeated until your brain learns there's no reward in quitting. Think of the fighter. His ribs ache, his lungs scream, his knuckles split open. Pain is his daily language, but he doesn't worship it, he studies it. He knows every ache has a message. Pain tells him where he's weak, where his defense leaks, where he must adapt. He doesn't stop because it hurts. He moves through it until it doesn't control him anymore. That's not toughness. That's trained obedience, the body serving the will. Now look at the student who fails his exam. The average man takes it personal. He hides, he quits, he scrolls away the shame. But the disciplined man dissects it. He opens his failure like a surgeon with a scalpel. He studies where he bled out. He rebuilds his system. That's pain turned into information. That's pain teaching precision. Or the entrepreneur who loses everything. Savings gone, trust betrayed, dreams humiliated. Pain strips him naked. But in that stripping, clarity appears. He learns what not to do. He learns what matters. He learns that stability is not built on speed, but on structure. That kind of wisdom doesn't come from books. It comes from breakdowns. Because the lessons you pay for in suffering, you never forget.
Pain is not your enemy. It's your tutor. It's the one teacher that doesn't need applause to teach. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't negotiate. It exposes you fully. There's a phenomenon called dopamine recalibration. When you stop chasing pleasure, your brain resets. It begins to find reward not in escape, but in endurance. The suffering that once scared you now satisfies you. The work that once felt heavy now feels holy. You start to crave control more than comfort. That's the turning point. That's when men stop needing to feel good, to do what's right. Pain doesn't kill focus, it forges it. Because when you're in pain, everything unnecessary disappears. You stop caring about opinions. You stop chasing applause. You stop explaining yourself. Pain cleans the room of your mind until only purpose remains. That's why men who've suffered deeply move differently. Quieter, slower, sharper. They've seen too much noise to worship it again. The modern warrior doesn't swing swords. He endures storms in silence. He doesn't post his struggle online. He buries it in his craft. He doesn't explain discipline. He embodies it. He knows that pain isn't chaos. It's calibration. Every minute you endure, your mind learns obedience. Every rep, every heartbreak, every lonely night, they all carve discipline deeper into your neural circuits, until one day you no longer flinch. The pain hits and you breathe. The storm comes and you move. That's not detachment, that's control, that's freedom. And that's the real science no one wants to accept. Pain is the lab where greatness is built. The experiment is endurance. The data is your reaction. So when it burns, don't pray for relief. Pray for revelation. Because that's what pain really is. Information wrapped in fire. Breathe through it. Watch yourself adapt. Let the discomfort kill your need for comfort. And what's left? That's discipline. That's power. Because a man who can stay calm while burning, that's the kind of man who wins wars. Listen, son, pain doesn't disappear, it mutates. It becomes something else. If you don't give it direction, it'll find one on its own. And when pain chooses the path, it leads straight to destruction. But when you command it, when you decide what it means, that's when it turns into power. That's when it becomes purpose. The weak man suffers and asks, "Why me?" The disciplined man suffers and asks, "What now?" That's the difference. Meaning-making is the bridge between breakdown and becoming. You can't avoid pain, that's nature, but you can assign it.
you can turn it into fuel. Because pain that has no meaning becomes poison, but pain that's given a mission becomes medicine. Every great man you've ever admired did not start from strength. They started from something shattered. Mandela didn't find peace in politics, he found it in prison. 27 years of cold walls, steel bars, and silence. They thought they were breaking him, but they were building him. In confinement, he learned control. He learned to master emotion until even his enemies respected his calm. That's pain converted into patience, discipline distilled from suffering. Then there's Viktor Frankl, a psychologist imprisoned in the Nazi death camps. He watched everything burn, his freedom, his family, his future. But he found something they couldn't take: meaning. He said, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." Think about that. Pain didn't destroy him, it gave him purpose so deep that he used it to build a new branch of psychology, logotherapy, centered on finding meaning in suffering. That's the proof. Pain is not what breaks men, the absence of purpose is. You think your heartbreak is useless, your failure meaningless, your suffering random? You're wrong. The pain you're feeling is raw material. It's energy in its wildest form. The question is whether you'll let it rot or refine it. The athlete loses the championship. The world calls it defeat. But he wakes up the next day and trains harder. Every loss becomes calculation. Every ache becomes precision. That's transmutation, turning agony into obsession. He doesn't run from the pain, he runs with it. That's why he wins next season, not because he trained more, but because he suffered smarter. Or the man who lost his father too early. He carries guilt, regret, a weight that never leaves. But instead of drowning in it, he builds something worthy of his father's name. Every success becomes a tribute. Every failure becomes a reminder of what he's still capable of becoming. That's not grief, that's devotion, disguised as pain. And then there's the story of Steve Jobs, fired from his own company, humiliated publicly, written off by the industry he built. But instead of collapsing, he rebuilt, smaller, sharper, deadlier. That pain became precision. That exile birthed Next and Pixar. And when he came back to Apple, he didn't just return, he resurrected it. That's pain re-engineered into legacy. Listen carefully. This isn't motivational noise. This is physics. Energy cannot be destroyed. It only changes form. Pain is energy, and if you don't channel it, it will consume you. That's the law of transmutation. Every scar, every heartbreak, every humiliation, all of it must move. It either destroys or rebuilds. There's no in-between. Pain isn't the villain. It's the unrefined version of power. But it needs direction. It needs a mission. That's your job. You don't numb it. You don't hide it. You weaponize it. Every ache becomes alignment. Every failure becomes formation. The man who learns to recycle pain becomes unstoppable because he no longer fears it. He uses it. He stores it. He converts it into discipline, clarity, drive. The energy that once broke him now builds his empire. That's why you never waste pain. You sit with it. You learn its language. It will tell you what you need to fix, not what you need to fear. You want to be great? Then stop trying to heal too fast. Let pain teach you before it leaves you. Because when it's gone, all that remains is the structure it built, the mental muscle, the emotional armor, the spiritual endurance. Don't waste pain, recycle it. Turn every loss into design, every scar into direction, every wound into wisdom. Because every wound you discipline becomes a doorway to something greater.
Listen, son. Every man reaches a breaking point, a moment so dark, so silent, so heavy that it feels like the world itself has turned against him. You wake up and realize the applause has stopped. The progress feels invisible. The fire that once burned bright now flickers under the weight of exhaustion. You've done everything right, the work, the hours, the sacrifice, and still nothing moves. That's the test. The phase where pain stops screaming and starts whispering, where momentum dies and the only thing keeping you standing is belief. This is not the punishment for wanting greatness. This is the proof that you're ready for it. Understand this. Life doesn't hand you strength for free. It audits you. It tests your claim. You said you wanted to be great? Then the universe strips you bare, removes the praise, the validation, the comfort, until all that's left is discipline. It's the same for every man who's ever become something more. Every one of them has walked through this tunnel. And here's the truth no one tells you. It's not the start that breaks men. It's the silence after the start, the part where there's no result, no recognition, no reassurance. That's when most men fall. That's when you're supposed to rise. Nelson Mandela once said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." But before that, he learned patience, the kind that comes from waiting 27 years without knowing if freedom would ever come. They locked his body, but couldn't chain his mind. They tried to humiliate him, but he learned to smile through restraint. Every day in that cell, he died a little and was reborn sharper, stronger, freer inside than his captors would ever be. His test wasn't the prison, it was the wait, the silence between effort and outcome. And that's where you are right now. You say you want to be disciplined? Then prepare to walk through that silence. Because the moment you start chasing something greater, life will push back to see if you really mean it. It'll hit you with rejection, delay, betrayal, fatigue, and then watch what you do. If you crumble, you were never serious. If you adapt, you're evolving. And if you endure, truly endure, you're becoming something that can't be broken anymore. Listen, this is not cruelty. This is calibration. Life removes the excess, so only the essential remains. When it takes your comfort, it's teaching you focus. When it takes your applause, it's teaching you consistency. When it takes your certainty, it's teaching you faith in yourself. Most men don't last here. They post their progress online, waiting for validation. And when the world doesn't clap fast enough, they quit. They call it burnout. They call it bad timing. But really, it's weakness dressed as logic. Stop expecting instant results. Stop calling delay failure. Stop needing proof before you move. The truth is simple. You will never know when it's working. Discipline doesn't announce itself. Growth doesn't send a signal. The man who wins is the man who keeps building even when there's no sign of progress. Because progress isn't always visible. Sometimes it's internal. Sometimes the delay is the development. Let me tell you something no one wants to admit.
There's a season where nothing makes sense. You'll pray and get silence. You'll work and see no fruit. You'll try to explain and nobody will understand. That's the part of the story every legend hides, the invisible years. Michael Jordan didn't become Jordan during the championships. He became Jordan during the off-seasons, the gym sessions no one saw, the mornings he shot alone, the hours that didn't trend, didn't sparkle, didn't go viral, because discipline isn't born in success, it's born in silence. It's forged when no one's watching, when the room is empty, when the applause is gone, and you're still sharpening the sword. Pain doesn't just test your strength, it exposes your motives. If you were chasing the reward, you'll quit when it disappears. But if you were chasing mastery, you'll keep going. Because mastery doesn't care about attention, it only cares about evolution. This is how life separates pretenders from predators. Pretenders chase results, predators chase rhythm. Pretenders want praise, predators want precision. The predator trains when the prey sleeps. That's why he never starves. You've been tested lately. I know it. You felt that wall, that sense of why isn't it working? But what if it is working? What if it's working in silence? It's the beginning of strength. So listen carefully. If you're being tested, it's because you're being trusted with strength, with clarity, with legacy. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. Keep going. Keep building. Keep bleeding in private until the world has no choice but to call you unbreakable. Because when the noise fades and all that's left is pain, that's the proving ground. And if you survive it, you don't just pass the test, you become the test.
Listen, son, you've fought pain long enough. You've cursed it, resisted it, tried to outwork it, outrun it, outpray it. But the harder you fight pain, the deeper it cuts. That's your first mistake. You don't defeat pain by escaping it. You master it by making it familiar. Pain is not your enemy. It's your instructor. It's the silent tutor of every great man who ever lived. The undisciplined man treats pain like a curse. The disciplined man treats it like a compass. When pain arrives, it's pointing somewhere, toward the next level of your strength. You've been told to heal. I'm telling you to harden. You've been told to rest. I'm telling you to rise. Because the goal was never to feel good. The goal was to become good enough to keep moving, even when you don't. Stop asking when it ends. Start asking what it's building. The moment you stop negotiating with pain, it loses power. The sting fades. The noise quiets. The body learns. The mind adapts. That's mastery, when pain becomes background music instead of a battle cry. You must learn what the samurai called mushin, no mind. It's the discipline of complete presence. When the sword cuts, you don't flinch. When the storm rages, you don't move. Emotion doesn't control you. Awareness does. You see pain. You feel it, but you don't serve it. That's what Miyamoto Musashi trained for. That's what Stoics wrote about. That's what the disciplined man is. Calm in chaos, clear in discomfort. Not numb, not heartless, free. The world breaks men who resist it, but it crowns men who absorb it. When you stop reacting, you start ruling. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Pain is neutral. You gave it meaning. You gave it permission. Take it back. Think of the creative who's failed 10 times in silence. He doesn't quit. He doesn't scream. He sits. He learns to breathe inside the failure until the next idea finds him. That's mushin. That's mastery. Think of the athlete who trains through soreness. The body screams, but the rhythm continues. Day after day, the pain becomes familiar, like a hum in the background. Soon, it's no longer suffering. It's signal. That's when he knows he's evolving. Think of the monk who meditates in stillness. The legs ache, the mind wanders, but he stays. He watches discomfort rise and fall like waves. He doesn't chase it away. He lets it pass. And in that stillness, he finds power. Every man must learn this. Pain isn't the storm, it's the weather. You can't fight it. You adjust your breathing until it passes. And when it passes, you're sharper than before.
Understand this truth. Mastery is not the absence of pain. It's the absence of panic. It's what separates those who burn out from those who burn brighter. When you learn to coexist with pain, it stops interrupting your mission. It becomes part of your rhythm, part of your breath, your grind, your peace. You won't need motivation anymore. You won't need external reward. You'll move because stillness offends you. You'll act because idleness feels unnatural. And when pain comes, you won't question it. You'll nod because you've seen it before. Don't run from pain. Train with it. Let it shadow you. Let it walk beside you. Let it sharpen you. Because when pain becomes a companion, discipline becomes second nature. When you and pain walk together, nothing on earth can stop you. Not delay, not doubt, not fatigue. That's when you've crossed over, from surviving the storm to becoming it. Listen, son. You've walked through the fire. You've learned its language. You've stopped asking when it ends and started asking what it's making you into. That's evolution. That's ascension. Pain introduced you to yourself. It stripped the noise, burned the weakness, and revealed the steel underneath. Now you understand, pain was never punishment, it was preparation. Nietzsche said, "To live is to suffer, to survive is to find meaning in the suffering." He was right. Every great man you admire was forged in the same furnace. Mandela's patience, Musashi's silence, Jobs' obsession, Jordan's fury, Kobe's relentlessness. None of them were born that way. Pain sculpted them. Pain refined them. Pain made them. You think legends are lucky? No. They're just the ones who didn't run. They stayed when it hurt. They built when no one clapped. They worked when everyone else wanted comfort. That's what separates the myth from the man. Not talent, not timing, not talk, tolerance. The world remembers men who suffered with purpose, not the ones who complained, not the ones who waited for things to get easy, because nothing great ever gets easy. It just gets earned. That rejection you're facing, it's not punishment, it's pressure. That silence you're living in, it's training. That exhaustion that makes you want to quit, it's the evidence that you're close.
The pain that once broke you is now the proof you belong here. So now when life hits, you don't flinch. You nod. You've seen this before. You've built muscle in the ache. You've built peace in the noise. You've built control in the chaos. Understand this. Pain didn't just build your discipline, it built your identity. It taught you how to carry scars without showing them. It taught you how to walk through fire and still smell like focus. It taught you how to be calm when men around you collapse. You've learned that suffering is not the enemy of strength, it's the doorway to it. You've learned that peace isn't the absence of struggle, it's mastery inside it. You've learned that greatness has a cost, and the currency is pain. Every tear, every failure, every lonely night, it wasn't wasted. It was an investment. You were depositing endurance, patience, control, and faith. And now those withdrawals are ready. Now you understand what men like you are made of. You don't chase comfort. You command chaos. You don't cry for mercy. You carve meaning. You don't pray for lighter loads. You build stronger backs. You've learned that pain is not the villain, it's the architect. And if you let it finish its design, it will make something out of you that comfort never could. So remember this, every man suffers, but only the disciplined build from it. The rest just bleed. And you were never meant to blend in with the rest. You were meant to rise, to lead, to last, because you weren't born soft. You weren't built easy. You were built different.
Understand this truth. Mastery is not the absence of pain, it's the absence of panic. It's what separates those who burn out from those who burn brighter. When you learn to coexist with pain, it stops interrupting your mission. It becomes part of your rhythm, part of your breath, your grind, your peace. You won't need motivation anymore. You won't need external reward. You'll move because stillness offends you. You'll act because idleness feels unnatural. And when pain comes, you won't question it. You'll nod because you've seen it before. Don't run from pain. Train with it. Let it shadow you. Let it walk beside you. Let it sharpen you. Because when pain becomes a companion, discipline becomes second nature. When you and pain walk together, nothing on earth can stop you. Not delay, not doubt, not fatigue. That's when you've crossed over from surviving the storm to becoming it. Listen, son. You've walked through the fire. You've learned its language. You've stopped asking when it ends and started asking what it's making you into. That's evolution. That's ascension. Pain introduced you to yourself. It stripped the noise, burned the weakness, and revealed the steel underneath. Now you understand pain was never punishment. It was preparation. Nietzsche said, to live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering. He was right. Every great man you admire was forged in the same furnace. Mandela's patience, Musashi's silence, Jobs' obsession, Jordan's fury, Kobe's relentlessness. None of them were born that way. Pain sculpted them. Pain refined them. Pain made them. You think legends are lucky? No. They're just the ones who didn't run. They stayed when it hurt. They built when no one clapped. They worked when everyone else wanted comfort. That's what separates the myth from the man. Not talent, not timing, not talk. Tolerance. The world remembers men who suffered with purpose. Not the ones who complained. Not the ones who waited for things to get easy. Because nothing great ever gets easy. It just gets earned. That rejection you're facing, it's not punishment, it's pressure. That silence you're living in, it's training. That exhaustion that makes you want to quit, it's the evidence that you're close. The pain that once broke you is now the proof you belong here. So now when life hits, you don't flinch, you nod. You've seen this before. You've built muscle in the ache. You've built peace in the noise. You've built control in the chaos. Understand this. Pain didn't just build your discipline. It built your identity. It taught you how to carry scars without showing them. It taught you how to walk through fire and still smell like focus. It taught you how to be calm when men around you collapse. You've learned that suffering is not the enemy of strength, it's the doorway to it. You've learned that peace isn't the absence of struggle, it's mastery inside it. You've learned that greatness has a cost, and the currency is pain. Every tear, every failure, every lonely night, it wasn't wasted. It was an investment. You were depositing endurance, patience, control, and faith. And now, those withdrawals are ready. Now you understand what men like you are made of. You don't chase comfort. You command chaos. You don't cry for mercy. You carve meaning. You don't pray for lighter loads. You build stronger backs. You've learned that pain is not the villain. It's the architect. And if you let it finish its design, it will make something out of you that comfort never could. So remember this. Every man suffers, but only the disciplined build from it. The rest just bleed. And you were never meant to blend in with the rest. You were meant to rise, to lead, to last. Because you weren't born soft. You weren't built easy. You were built different.